Right. So we will now move into profit and profitability framework. This is the first and the very basic framework which you will encounter, and these will be the first cases that you will be preparing for. But in order to start with this framework, first we will have to understand what do we mean by profit and what do we mean by profitability. By profit, we mean a simple equation, which is revenue minus cost. That is it. And by profitability, we mean profit per unit of sales. So profit again is revenue minus cost divided by the number of units that you are selling. So be very be very accurate in understanding what the case is talking about. Is it talking about a decline in profit or is it talking about a decline in profitability? Most of the cases it will be about a decline in profit. However, be very thorough with what the statement, the Q of the case talks about. Right. So when we talk about profit, the first line of solution comes when we divide profit into revenue and cost. This is a level one. So when the case says that there's a decline in profit, identify the issue. Then you will have to come up with saying that I believe that the problem could either be in the revenue side or the cost side. Which side do you want me to explore first? So this is the first conversation point that you will come up with. The case says, let us say we are talking about revenue side, right? When the case says revenue side, then you can take some more time, let us say 30 seconds, in order to build your framework ahead. The framework that we'll be discussing will be a very generic framework, a very generic template that you can follow. However, the frameworks also differ based on the industry, but this can come in handy when you are solving your first few cases, and then you can just build your own frameworks from scratch if you want to. Right. So when we talk about revenue, revenue is a function of P and Q, price and units. A fall in revenue would only be due to a fall in prices or in fall in units. Fall in prices is understandable. Let us say there is a price war going on in the market, so there will be a price war initiated from your side as well. That is why there is a decline in revenue. Or there could be a decline in units. A decline in units being sold could be due to two reasons. It could be either internal or external. Let us first analyze the internal reasons. So internal reasons for decline in sales. Yeah, let me delete this. Right. So it could be due to these three major factors. It could be due to reduction in production or ineffectiveness of a distribution channel or a weak consumer pull. There could be other reasons as well, but this is something that you would find in a lot of cases. So when you talk about production, we talk about the capacity of the plant, we talk about the utilization of the plant. If the units are not being produced, they will not be sold. Simple as that. Distribution channels, when we talk about the different channels which companies have. So let us say we are a shoe manufacturer, then there will be certain offline stores, there will be online stores. In online stores, there will be a company owned store, there will be Amazon, Flipkart, and other e-commerce sites. There would be a lead time associated with every store that we are talking about. That is also that you might want to take into consideration. And the last one is the consumer pull. So consumer pull can be assessed using a consumer journey. And this is the framework for consumer journey, which comes in very handy for multiple cases. And this will is something that we'll be touching upon in some further frameworks as well. When we talk about consumer journey, you can memorize this using this mnemonic of NAAAE, or you can make your own mnemonics if you want to. But a consumer journey starts with the need of the product. Is there a need for a product? Is there a need for a shaver which has a detachable blade and a handle? Is there a need in the market? If there is, then are the people aware about it? Are there proper communication and media messages going through the company channel? Is marketing something that we are lacking at? Is there awareness about the product? Accessibility refers to the channels, multiple channels, omni-channel experiences. If the product is accessible, then probably the issue would be with affordability. Affordability would refer to the price of the product. It would also refer to what the substitutes are pricing their product at. So affordability is something you might want to consider. And then finally, it is the experience. So experience pre-shopping, during the purchase, and post the purchase. So we talk about the pre-buying behavior, during shopping, and post-buying behavior. So you might want to look at when we are, let us say, entering a gold jewelry shop, and the customer is one person and the consumer is one person. So you might want to think that who is the customer and who's going to the consumer. In a toy store, the customer is the parent, the consumer is going to be the child. You might want to look at what kind of experience you are offering to both of the people. So that is about the internal function. So if we talk about the external reasons for it, there you might want to take a look at the pestle analysis, a very well-known framework. But PESTEL here stands for political reasons, economical, social, technological, environmental, legal. A quick example here would be that, let us say, a political reason could be that due to elections or due to some political parties offering certain services, your product is not in demand in the market right now. Let us say there are a lot of freebies related to, say, electricity. The bills are being waived off. If you are an electricity providing a grid operator, then that would result in a reduction in the revenue that you're getting because of fees. The bills are being waived off. Economical reasons could be you might want to look at the economical, like the economic strata of the location we are operating at. If you are a very high end store operating in a market where there are not a lot of people with a very high disposable income, you might want to rethink where you're operating. Social reasons would be, say, when McDonald's entered India, they had to come up with a menu which has vegetarian options in it, but might not be a case when you might want to, say, enter a US or a UK city. So that is a social reason. Technological would be advances in technology. For example, let us say if you are an ink producing company for paper printing notes, like the paper notes which the government has. Recently, there has been a high upsurge in UPI technology. Everyone is using their phone. So demand for the units of ink that your company is selling, that will reduce. So technology is something you might want to look at. Environmental reasons, again, very understandable. If there are certain regulations put in to curb certain environmental degradation practices which your company is doing, you might want to take a look at that. And that, so legal again would mean any kind of tariffs, trade control practices which the government is taking into account. So that is what we are referring to. So when we talk about profit, this is level one, this is level two, this is level three, then we have level four analysis, and then these are the level five analysis. You might not be able to touch all the levels. Definitely, you will have to practice at least level three. Level four and level five is something you will have to do if you want to go to the next round. So level three is something that you definitely have to know on your tips. For level four and level five, you will have to make some mnemonics. You will have to understand what the industry is looking like, and then come up with the framework, right? Great. So now we will move on to the cost side of the equation. So the cost side of the equation can be understood using three methods. The first method of analyzing the costs of an industry is through the value chain analysis. And we have tried to understand the value chain using a mnemonic RRTM powder. This is a mnemonic that we have made. So R refers to R&D, raw material, transportation, manufacturing, packaging, warehousing, distribution, retail. After retail, we also have a customer service and reverse logistics. We'll touch upon all of these briefly. R&D refers to the human capital, the scientists, the technicians that are working in your laboratories. The equipment refers to the machines which is used for R&D. R&D can also refer to the price of patents if you're filing. So a lot of things can go into R&D, but a very brief would be a human capital and equipment. Raw material would refer to the cost of raw material. If you are buying it in bulk, are you getting any quantity or aggregation discounts? Because often in cases you would find that the raw material is being sourced from different sources. If you want to aggregate all of these vendors, then that would help you in reducing the cost for raw material. Then we have transportation. So transportation is something which would come in between many value chain drivers. For example, we have transportation here as a line item, but transportation is also there in packaging. It is also there in warehousing. So you will have to understand who is taking care of transportation if we are a completely vertically integrated company. So vertically integrated company means that we are doing everything starting from R&D to the sale of the item. Then transportation is something that we might be also doing. However, if we are only, let us say, a manufacturing company, then transportation is being done by, let us say, a raw material provider, and transportation from the manufacturing facility is done by people who are distributing it. So you will have to understand where we are sitting in the value chain, and then what are the cost drivers for ourselves. In transportation, we have the fuel, we have the fleet. Refers to the Fleet refers to the size of the vehicles that we have. So we have trucks, we have cars, we have milk vans, whatever. And then the distance is covered. So explanatory. Manufacturing refers to the machine, rent, labor, and utilization. So again, if you haven't heard, utilization refers to the capacity being used. So for example, if your factory can produce 100 units and you're only producing 80, that is a 80% utilization. You might want to increase that. You might want to give that in a recommendation to increase utilization rates from 80% to 85%, whatever. So that is something you will consider under manufacturing. Packaging refers to material design and transportation. So a quick example here would be Pepsi and Coke are concentrate producers. So they are in the manufacturing part where they produce the uh, concentrate, which gets used by these bottling companies, which are responsible for creating the bottles, which are made out of plastics, or which make cans, which are made out of aluminium and different metals. So if you're a packaging company, then the material and the design and the transportation is something you might want to look at. Warehousing again refers to the uh, places where you store the product before selling it or distributing it to your distribution channel. So again, transportation is important, rent is important, and holding cost is important. So if it is a cold storage, then holding cost is something that would be very significant. So warehousing is also very important for an e-commerce company. So Amazon and Flipkarts of the world have very big fulfillment centers. So warehousing costs are also very significant. Distribution refers to the channels that you have. So if you have an online channel, what is the fees for that? If you have your own sales force, then what are the training and operational support programs that you're providing? What are the incentives that you're providing to your sales force? So distribution network is something you will look at. Retail refers to the finally the retail shops where it's usually only the marketing which is important there, and also the margin that you are willing to provide to the retailer. So marketing and the margins that you might want to look at. And finally, which is something that is not covered in this mnemonic, is this after sales service, which talks about the repairs, returns, and the customer service. So if you are a Pepsi or a Coke, and you are giving some bottles to a restaurant operator, and when those glass bottles are used, the glass bottles come back to the retail and distribution channel. So if there is some issue in the transportation of those glass bottles and the glass bottles break in between the transit in transit, then that would be a high cost for the company. And this is an actual case that we practice during our summer preparation. So after the RRT and PWD are mnemonic, do take into consideration the repair, returns, and the reverse logistics of the product. Once value chain is done, uh, so the value chain is very crucial for cases where we have a product. So if we are making a phone, if we are making a table, if we are making a chair, then for product-based companies, this value chain analysis is very useful. For a medicine, for a pharma company, it's very important. However, if you are unable to crack it using this framework, uh, you can use something like this. You can use an income statement. An income statement is something that you'll be uh, learning about in your finance classes. However, a rough income statement, a very crude one, looks something like this, where we have the revenue, which talks about the revenue from operations and revenue from other services. Then we reduce the COGS. COGS is the cost of goods sold, which takes into account the inventory, the purchase cost, the holding cost of inventory, the selling of inventory, the labor, the overheads, the transportation costs, and the indirect costs. So under COGS, we have these broad differentiation, these broad verticals, and when we reduce COGS from revenue, we get a gross profit. So now you will have to understand whether we are talking about a reduction in gross profit or whether are we talking about a reduction in net income. From gross profit to net income, we have certain measures like an operating expenditure, which talks about the selling, general, and admin expenses. We have depreciation. Removing these two from our gross profit gives us an EBIT. EBIT is also known as operating income. Reducing interest from EBIT gives us profit before tax, and reducing taxes gives us net income. Cases can also be designed in a way where they say that the company has been seeing a reduction in gross profit margin or a net income margin. So margin would refer to gross profit divided by revenue or a net income divided by revenue. So you will have to be very careful in understanding what the case is talking about. And if you're unable to understand the cost driver through these value chain levers, take a look at the income statement if the person is willing to give you that. However, in most of the cases, you will not find this approach, but this is something that we have curated using feedback from different buddies and mentors from different companies. So something to look at if the above thing fails. And the third thing is that if you are analyzing a service based company, so service industry value chain refers to, let us say, uh, a tech services company, or say a consulting company, or an investment banking company. So you will have to take a look at different levers. So R&D is something that is not present in those kind of companies. Neither is raw material or transportation. So you would want to look at the operations of the company, the distribution network, the sales and marketing effort, and the customer service. So if we take an example of, say, a TCS, a tech services company, operations would refer to the people who are working in TCS, let us say in India. So there is a cost of asset. Cost of asset here refers to the employee cost, which is there. In employee cost, further, there could be a fixed compensation and a variable compensation. When you're talking about operation, there would be a building, there would be rent, there would be leases. So operations is something that is taken care of. When we talk about distribution, then probably there would be certain distribution networks through which TCS would be uh, giving the software to different companies. Once that is done, we would also want to look at, say, distribution and sales and marketing and customer experience effort. So that is a sales and marketing refers to when we have an MD of an investment bank going to different clients, there is a cost associated with that sales and marketing effort as well. So banking, investment banking again becomes a sales and marketing role after a certain point. So that is what you might want to take into consideration. Or if, say, a TCS is approaching IIM Indore for a TCS IN for the CAT exam, so sales and marketing effort is also in that sense. Customer experience and customer service, again, finally, if there are some issues with the software that or the service that is being provided, what kind of a customer engagement is done there. This is a very broad service industry value chain which might not fit in every industry. You will have to use your brain, you will have to ask the interviewer, but this is how it looks like. So with that, we have completed our profit and profitability framework. A quick look here. Yeah, so this is our profitability framework, and I'm sure that you would be able to solve cases now. Practice, and I'll see you in the next round where we talk about the growth framework. Thank you.